Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. This podcast has evolved over the 5+ years since it first launched. From now on, I'm going to be talking about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. And also mindset, of course, but mindset of all kinds, not just business mindset. I think. Things are changing for me, as you may have noticed if you've been following me online or listening to this podcast, so anything goes here. I hope you stay along for the ride. Thank you so much for joining us today, and now let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 322. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today, I'm going to talk about something that has been on my mind lately, as is often the case with these episodes. So I wanted to share my thoughts with you because I doubt I'm the only person who ever wonders this, or struggles with this, or has this issue going on. So the topic for today is it possible to do too much healing and inner work? I think it is. I think I need to learn how to be more balanced with the work that I do. So hopefully in this episode, I'm going to help you find the right balance for you. So how to know when you've had too much, how to know how much is too much, and how to find the right kind of therapies and types of inner work and frequencies that are right for you. So I hope you find this episode interesting and useful. And let's get into this episode. So this is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately because, as I mentioned kind of cryptically a few weeks ago, I went on this healing retreat. And that was, I think it was the second weekend of August. So it was the 9th to the 11th of August. And I went on this healing retreat and it was really, really intense. So much so that it took me most of the next week to recover from it. Not recover from it, that sounds terrible, to integrate the healing. And I'm probably still integrating the healing. But I needed to take about 5 days off and just sit in bed and read and rest and relax and eat. I found it difficult to fast. So instead of doing my normal 1 meal a day fasting, I was eating twice a day and drinking lots of water and taking it easy so that I could integrate kind of the bulk of that healing. And again, it was such a deep healing work that I think it's something that I'll probably be integrating for the next few months. But it did take me a good 5 days of downtime, of integration time, and rest to really get back on track. After that, I wanted something kind of relaxing. And the following week, I decided to have a Reiki session. Now, Reiki is one of those therapies, it's the first thing I ever trained in years and years ago, that I think it's easy to underestimate. Because it's nice, you just kind of lie there and you receive the energy, and it's really nice and gentle, but it's also healing, and it's also shifting things, and it's also, I think, really deep. So I think Reiki is one of those things that, for me at least, it's really easy to underestimate. It is healing, it is energy work, and it's not just a walk in the park. I think stuff like that does also require its integration time, but I don't always recognize that. Then the following week, I thought it would be a great idea to start receiving craniosacral therapy. So I've had sessions in that. And that's another thing it's so gentle, it's so subtle. But I know it's going really, really deep. So with the exception of the week that I walked the South Downs Way, I've had 4 weekly sessions of craniosacral therapy, which I'm telling you, I think it's really easy to underestimate this stuff. I feel like it goes really, really deep. And I know that because I'm not really functional for like the rest of the day after I have craniosacral. So I will try to give myself like an hour's worth of rest, kind of sit in bed and read afterwards, and give myself time to integrate. But I find it really difficult to work the rest of the day. So I'm kind of learning how to fit that therapy into the rest of my day and plan Like if I know I've got certain things to do in the week, I'll plan the bulk of my work on days when I'm not receiving healing like that. So I've had to rearrange things because I'm learning that even the gentle stuff requires its integration time. And that should be common sense, but I need to remind myself of that. So I'm saying it out loud to remind you as well. So within, this last month or so, I've also walked the South Downs Way, which I find to be really restorative. Loads of just relaxation and mindfulness and just being present in the moment, putting one step in front of the other. And this isn't exactly healing, but it's walking 100+ miles. So the trail itself is 100 miles, but of course you've also got to walk like a mile or so off the trail in the afternoon to get to where I'm staying, back onto the trail in the morning. So there's a physical effort that's going on there. So even though mentally it's very restorative and very healing and very relaxing, it's a lot of work physically to walk 9 days in a row. And I think I underestimate that, especially since I had such an easygoing time of it on the South Downs Way this year. I had 2 very tiny blisters that I don't even count because I didn't have to put Compeed on them. They healed very quickly. It was just easy compared to my previous experience. So again, I think that's something that I tend to underestimate. And it required some rest and relaxation before getting back into my normal physical activity, which I feel like I haven't really fully gotten back to. Because last weekend, I was on my plant spirit healing apprenticeship and we were working with white pine to work with ancestral healing. And I'd only had 1 session of ancestral healing before, and that was massively life-changing. But this was working with all of our ancestors. And we learned this really awesome way of working with our ancestors to work with the ancestor that haven't yet crossed into the light, that haven't passed on, and drumming them through the 7 directions to help them cross into the light. It was huge. It was exhausting. And it took me a while to recover from that. So this week has been a bit of recovery from that. And then, of course, I did craniosacral again yesterday, and that was rough. I mean, it wasn't rough. It was gentle. It was lovely. It was relaxing, but I required integration for that. So the point of all this is I've been doing a lot of stuff in the last month and a half, and I feel like I haven't given myself enough integration time. And the reason I know this is because I feel like I haven't gotten back on track with life. I've been skipping a lot of my kickboxing classes because I just haven't had enough energy to go to the group classes. I've been doing my private classes that I do once a week. And I have been to some classes, here and there. But the last couple of weeks since my South Downs Way, I haven't been to a group class because I just couldn't. I didn't have the energy. And I know what it's like when I don't have the energy. It's not like going out for a run or going out for a hike. Like when you're sparring with other people and my energy is low, that's when I get punched in the face because I drop my guard and I don't perform well. And it's not the same for me, at least in my perspective, as other kinds of energy, other kinds of exercise where, you can more easily just stop and not get injured. So I feel like all of the healing and inner work that I do has been a lot. So since that retreat that I did, I really felt like I didn't have the need to do any more mindset work. So I've been doing the Psych K for my Patreon, and I've been doing the Heart-Centered Energy work for my Patreon. And so all the Patreon members have been receiving their normal done-for-you mindset work and healing. But I haven't felt the need to do any of that for myself. I think there was a time when I was compulsively doing mindset work and Psych K work to where I'd be working in the day and I would feel a block or I would feel stuck on something and I would just stop everything and do a bunch of balancing. And I think that was great and I think that served me. But I just haven't been feeling the need for that since I did that retreat in August. I've been feeling really kind of whole. However, I have had that need for the craniosacral and the Reiki and other types of kind of healing, kind of more energy healing. And gentle healing, although I don't know if I should use that word, relaxing healing, because it goes deep. So I've been feeling a need for different kinds of healing, but I've still been pretty full on with it. And I think it's been too much. And I say that again because it's been disrupting other things that are really important to me, like kickboxing. So that to me has been a sign that my healing work and my inner work has been interfering with things that are high priority to me. You know, I'm hopefully on track to get my black belt next year, so I really feel like I can't drop the ball between now and next summer with my kickboxing. I really want to put in the effort, put in the time, and improve so that I can be at the level I need to be at for the summer course next year. So that's a very important goal for me. It's a very important kind of priority for me. And right now, the healing work that I'm doing has been interfering with that. So I think that has been a massive kind of red flag for me that has made me stop and realize what I've been doing and realize that the healing that I've been doing is deeper than I thought and requires more integration time than I thought. So what I'm doing about that? I have another one of those super deep retreats booked for the end of the year, which I'm actually really, really looking forward to. I really want to continue doing that type of work. And I do have a craniosacral session for next week. But after that, I think I'm going to maybe skip to every other week or longer. I don't know. But what I have done is I've intentionally blocked out the rest of that day in my calendar to do other self-care things to allow for that integration time from the craniosacral. So I've rearranged my schedule next week to allow for that, rather than expecting myself to get on with my day and do my emails and do my normal business and work tasks after having such a deep healing session. So that's how I've changed things up. And again, I'm going to lay off all of this intense healing and really give myself some time for integration, because the plant spirit apprenticeship, that's once a month. And I've got 2 more weekends of that, one in October, one in November. And I know those are going to be other 2 weekends of deep healing. So I've got that stuff planned. It's not something I want to cancel because I want to finish the apprenticeship. So I need to work the rest of my life around that, including my healing and inner work. So that was very long-winded. And that was a lot about me and my story and my experience. And the reason I always talk about my stuff is not because I love talking about myself, but because I find it really useful to hear other people's stories and what they've learned from their experiences and how that can help me. So that's why I share my stuff, both the good stuff and the challenges, because I hope that this will help you and serve you in your life and in your healing. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, I assume that you're someone who's really into personal development and healing and inner work and mindset work. And I know that because when I get feedback from people who listen to the show, I can see that they're that kind of person. And I know that's not going to apply to everyone, but most of you probably are. So if healing and personal development is a high priority for you, it's possible that you've kind of reached this point of not healing burnout, because I don't feel like I'm burned out, but I do feel like I've reached kind of a saturation point with my healing work and inner work, and I need to scale it back, dial it back a little bit. So enough about me. Let's talk about you. Is it too possible, and I asked this question at the beginning, to do too much healing and inner work? I think yes, but I think it's important to clarify what I mean by too much. Healing and inner work is very important to me, and I intend to spend the rest of my life working with myself and healing not just stuff from this life, but from previous lives, healing ancestral stuff. That is the path that I'm walking, and that is the path that's important to me. This is a high priority for me in my life. It's possibly number 1 priority of all the different kind of segments in the wheel of life. So it's something that I will continue to do. It's not like, oh, I've reached my saturation point and that's it. I'm not doing any more. It's not like I've done too much and I need to stop for the rest of my life. What I think that I need to do, what I believe that I need to do, is just scale back the intensity and the frequency and allow myself more integration time. Now, I've done a podcast episode on allowing for integration from healing, and that was episode 279, which was titled Downtime. Are you getting it? And that was probably the first moment that I noticed that I was not getting enough integration time for my healing. And that episode went live, that was last year. So this is a topic that I was already thinking about last year. So for you, are you getting enough integration time and downtime from the healing that you're doing? Do you feel like you're saturated and you've been doing too much? Do you feel like you've got healing burnout? Do you feel like your energy levels have dropped? That to me is a sign when I don't have enough energy to do like physical stuff like kickboxing or exercise because I've been doing too much healing. Do you feel like you're tired all the time, but yet you've been getting enough sleep? Or maybe do you feel like you've been needing more sleep to feel good? I've definitely been paying attention to my sleep lately. I got an Oura ring, an O-U-R-A ring for my birthday this year. It's another one of those kind of tracker devices like a Fitbit, but it's more focused on sleep. It measures both your heart rate and your body temperature, and it gives you really useful sleep data. So I'll link to that in the show notes. But the point of that is that I've noticed that I've been needing more sleep lately. I used to be able to get by in 7 hours, but I really, really need 8 hours of sleep lately to feel like a functional and focused human being. So that's another question to ask yourself. How do you feel? Do you feel balanced? Do you feel like things are changing too much, changing too fast? Because another result, of course, of this healing and inner work is that we are changing. We're healing ourselves. We are changing, we're shifting, we're stepping into a new version of ourselves, we're peeling off the layers of crap, possibly stepping into new identity. And that's something that I talked about a lot last year because I felt like I was shifting a lot. And that can be overwhelming. So if you feel like you've been changing yourself through healing work and inner work, and you've been making so many changes that you're like, who the heck am I? Like, I don't even know. I've changed so much. I don't know who I am. That, I think, is another sign to maybe stop, integrate the work that you're doing, and give yourself a break before moving on and doing more inner work. Because, like I said, I was almost compulsively doing mindset work for a while. And I didn't see that at the time. I just, was really into it. And you know that I love it, so I'm going to continue to do it. But I've really needed a break from that. And I think that's because I was making so many changes within myself that I needed to just stop and integrate all of the work that I'd done. Change can be stressful. And, don't underestimate the stress that comes from the changes from doing healing work and inner work and mindset work. That's why we need this integration time. So change takes energy. And if you don't have the energy to do other things in your life that are a priority, maybe that's because you've been doing so much inner work and the energy is going towards that. So as I said, look at how all of this inner work and healing that you've been doing is affecting the rest of your life. Have you had to cancel things in order to recover from your healing? Have you had to let go of hobbies, classes, workshops, things that are important to you? Have you had to quit exercising or put a hold on your exercising? And where do those activities sit within your list of priorities in your life? So, I said healing is possibly the number one priority in my life, and not just healing, but like inner work and personal development. That's, quite possibly my number one priority. But also physical health and well-being, exercise, fitness. That's also super, super important to me. My kickboxing is also really, really important to me. So when I see that I have to cancel these things to recover from my healing, that's a sign for me that I need to hold back. So what are the things that perhaps are high priority for you that you've been having to put off or cancel because you need more time to integrate. And I think it's also important to know, where is healing on your list of priorities? Like, is it number 1 for you, number 2, number 3, or is it lower down? Look at the wheel of life, which I will link to in the show notes, and look at where personal development or inner work ranks compared to family, friends, social life, spirituality, relationships, business, career, money, finances, all that stuff. Look at where healing sits on that list. How big of a priority is it for you? Because if you've been doing tons of healing work and it's really not as important to you as other stuff in your life, either you need to reevaluate where healing work sits in your list of priorities, or you need to dial it back and really make those other things a priority. So those are some ways that you can tell whether you've had too much, whether you need to dial it back a little bit, whether you need to press pause and give yourself more time to integrate the healing that you've already done before you start doing other healings. So that leads me to the question, how do you recover from this, I don't want to say healing burnout, but like, how do you give yourself more time to integrate? So for me, the first thing is to press pause, not do more healing until you feel like you're in a more balanced place. So press pause on the healing and inner work. Maybe, make a list of the things that you want to do when you start back up again, but really get to know yourself. And I've recently done a series of 3 episodes on self-knowledge. Who am I? Where am I? Where am I going? But really stop and get to know yourself. And again, if you've done a lot of healing work, you might not know who you are right now because you've peeled off a lot of layers of crap and you're kind of more to the core, the center of yourself, your true authentic self. But you don't know quite who that is, and you need to get to know yourself. So maybe I'll link to those episodes in the show notes, but maybe you need to go through and do some of that who am I work. And I've got a lot of blog posts on that topic as well that can help you. And all of those podcast episodes now have downloadable transcripts. Those are episodes 315, 316, and 317. Those 3 all really go together well. So get to know yourself again. Get to know who you are today. Because who you are today after all this healing is different from who you were last month, last year, 5 years ago. We're always constantly changing, but if we are really dedicated to this inner work, we might be changing more than the average person. So I think it's good to check in with ourselves and do that self-knowledge work on a regular basis. So know yourself. Know who you are now, today. And just pay attention. Maybe track your energy levels and your stress levels and your activity levels. So maybe have a page in your journal or do it on your calendar. You can do it on paper, you can do it on the computer, whatever, but track your energy levels. So track like all the healing you've been doing for the past month or a few months. And then maybe start tracking each day what your energy levels are like on a scale of 1 to 10. And also make note of things that you've had to cancel because your energy levels are low. And I think that will really help you get a visual of how long it takes you to recover. So like I know now, and I always block out, like when I block out time for recovery from an integration from healing, I always block that out in my calendar so I know, which is how I know that it took me 5 days to integrate from the retreat in August. And how many hours it takes me or how many hours I give myself to integrate after different sessions. So that can be useful as well, as to block out that time in your calendar so that you can see visually how long, obviously not how long it's taken you, because it takes you longer than just the time you give yourself, but it will give you a visual of how much time you gave yourself to integrate and not do anything and really take it easy. So track your energy levels and stress levels and how long you give yourself to integrate each type of healing. And then look at how that fits into the rest of your life. Look at how to create a balance with the activities in the rest of your life. And that will help you find the right therapies for you at the right times and the right frequencies of those therapies. So like that retreat that I did, I'm probably not going to want to do that more than 2 or 3 times a year, just because I think that's going to require a lot of integration time. Before I went on that retreat, I was thinking, oh, this might be something I want to do quarterly, but I think that's too frequent for me. I'm thinking twice, maybe 3 times a year. Craniosacral, I don't know. I'm going to have to play with that, but I'm thinking once a week is probably too much, just because of how difficult it is to fit into my schedule, especially for the next month, which is really, really busy. So those are my examples, and I hope that helps you to see how to balance inner work and therapy and healing and mindset work with the rest of your life. Because of course, this is just one piece of our lives. Even if we're really, really into this stuff, we've got other stuff going on and we need to function. So going back to my initial question which was how to know how much is too much healing. To me, there are 2 main answers for that. It's one, when it interferes with other things that are high priorities in your life. And 2, when you're non-functional. Like if you're doing so much healing that you just can't function in your regular life with all of the other things that are important for you and that you have to get done, that's also a sign that it's too much. So I would love to hear from you. Do you ever feel like you've gotten to a point of healing burnout or too much healing or too much inner work? And how did you know? And what have you done to recover from that? For me, it's all about just giving myself permission. And this is really hard for me, giving myself permission to take time off and integrate. So is that something that you find easy? Giving yourself permission to integrate after the healing? Please let me know. I would love to hear from you. And I would love to share some people's stories on a future episode. Because I think this is something that we don't look at enough and we don't talk about enough. And as always, before I do one of these episodes, I Google the topic to see what other people are saying on the topic and see if I agree with them or not, or, what kinds of things I want to take into consideration when I talk about this topic. And I couldn't find that much. I found one blog post on highly sensitive people and how to deal with recovery from healing and integration from healing. But that was about it. Like, I did not find much information on this topic. So please share your stories with me. I would love to hear from you. You can email me at holly@hollyworton.com or get in touch online and send me a message there and share your story. How much is too much healing? How did you know? How did you recover? And as always, I would love for you to join me on Patreon. I know I've just talked about too much healing, but I would like to invite you to join me there. Depending on the tier that you sign up at, you can get done for you heart-centered energy work and or Psych K mindset work. So I would love for you to join me there. Membership starts at just $1 a month and you get exclusive access to stuff that I don't share anywhere else, including this done for you mindset and energy healing work. So that's all for now. Next week's episode is probably going to be, finally, an episode with Joanna Hennon. We are all kind of back from summer and getting back into our normal rhythms. And we have some time booked in the calendar this week to do the episode. So hopefully that will be next week's episode. I think what we're going to talk about is more of the self-knowledge stuff, because I've talked a lot about it with you and I've shared my perspective with you. But I would really like to have this conversation with someone else. So I'm hopefully going to do it with Joanna and also Joe Casey in the future. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening. And remember to visit hollyworton.com/322 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollyworton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.